Good point. And number 3 is USC, and I think that a lot of people out there may, kind of shrug their shoulders on this one. USC with Lane Kiffin moving over. We know they have plenty of talent, but talk about how the room was swayed to put USC in the top 3.
Well, this happened. We go to press, I want to say end of April, beginning of May. I mean, we this was done long before the sanctions, and to be honest with you, I know that they're losing players. It seems like once a week, but they haven't really lost a major contributor yet. I know, Byron Moore and Jordan Campbell and Malik Jackson, and I'll tell you what, Tennessee fans, it doesn't matter what the name is or where he's coming from. Tennessee fans want some help on either line of scrimmage, so they'll take whoever they get right now. But DJ Shoemate, pretty talented player, an outstanding recruit, and transferring to UConn. They might miss him, but they're just so loaded at every position. I mean, you could argue that this is the best roster in America at USC, and it's tough. I mean, listen, Lane Kiffin haters and Lane Kiffin supporters alike. I mean, there's both of them all over the country, and for various reasons. And one of them you can't say is that you don't know if he's a good football coach, because he turned an absolutely atrocious Tennessee offense into a legitimate, almost 25, 30-point a game kind of offense. I mean, that offense was terrible 2 years ago and actually had some semblance of life last year. And we know what he's done with the coaching staff. He's got maybe the best defensive coordinator on the planet. Calling plays from on defense. They're going to be good. They're going to win a lot of games. We do a podcast each week on the website, AthlonSports. It's called Section 120. I host it with some of my buddies, and I had my boss on, and I said, what happens if USC goes 11-1 this year? They don't get to play in a bowl game, and they return everyone next year. Would we put them number 1 in the magazine, even if they can't play for a championship? And my boss, managing editor, 8 years, didn't know what to say. We don't. I don't know what, because that's a team that next year could be a preseason number 1 type of football team next season, and that's a shame if you're a USC fan, because it doesn't look like they're going to have a chance to play for a title.
Yeah, that's interesting stuff there, Braden, and that's a good point you bring up about USC, and Lane Kiffin. Definitely not liked up in Tennessee, but, he moves back out to where he wants to be and where he's always wanted to be. It was his dream job. And, as far as that's concerned, he inherited a lot of problems that Pete Carroll left behind with the Reggie Bush deal, but he'll have to deal with them. And, I think maybe he was a little arrogant thinking that they weren't going to get any sanctions handed to him, and then it was on the flip side, it was probably about as bad as you could get, but he's got to deal with it. But you're right, it's going to be a team that has a lot of talent that might not get to play for anything, but that you can look at it on the other side. Southern Cal and Oklahoma, with sanctions against both of them, stole an opportunity away from Auburn here in the state of Alabama in 2004 when they went undefeated and had no sanctions against them. So I don't know if there's too many people feeling sorry for Southern Cal here in the SEC. But let's move on and talk about some other teams that you guys have. Number 15 is Georgia. I don't know if I see Georgia there. Georgia has a lot of problems right now. They're having a lot of off-the-field problems. I know, like you said, this was put out late April, early May, but since then, it just seems like we had somebody on from the Georgia rival site last week, and it just seems like Mark Richt may be every single year losing a little bit more and more control of this program. I would be shocked if they finish in the top 15. And then, of course, Auburn at 22 and LSU at 24. Let's talk about all three of those teams real quickly.
Well, Georgia's that is one of the most intriguing, one of the most interesting teams and me personally, that I'm looking forward to watching this year, because on paper you go, all right, well, they don't have that great of a quarterback. They've cleaned house in the coordinating staff. They've changed their defensive scheme. Do they have the personnel to fit? There's questions. You got an athletic director getting in trouble and has been removed. You got all this stuff that you're talking about. But at the same time, they have probably the best offensive line maybe in the country. I mean, I put Wisconsin, Ohio State up there, and one of the best offense. Great running game. You've got an elite talent at wide receiver. You've got a gunslinger state champion of a quarterback coming in after sitting for a year in Aaron Murray. You don't know what you're going to get at him. And listen, 90-27 is Mark Richt's career record at Georgia. 90-27. And I think his road SEC record is just absolutely ridiculous how good it is. I understand that they're not playing for national championships while Alabama and LSU and Florida have, and I get that. I understand that's the case. But he's got SEC titles under his belt. It's tough for me to really see why the Georgia fan base is so up in arms about Mark Richt, especially with the way he goes about his business. I mean, listen, I'm a realist. I understand that every head coach in America, especially the SEC, is doing whatever they, quote-unquote, have to do to win. I mean, I didn't fall off a cabbage truck yesterday. I know that things happen off the record at all these schools because it's the nature of the business. But Mark Richt has got such a clean-cut image that he's going out in the offseason and helping all these people and doing all these things, and he's winning a ton of football games. It's tough for me to really get a hold as to what the Georgia fan is thinking, and are the expectations too high? I'm not. I don't know. If he goes 8-4 this year, to me, that you got a redshirt freshman quarterback coming back with a lot of young talent around him. That sounds like a good stepping stone into next season, but I'm not sure every Georgia fan sees it that way, and it's tough. I think this could be a really sneaky good football team, or it could completely crumble. They got an interesting schedule early on. They got the big games against South Carolina, week 2 on the road. They got Arkansas at home. If they lose both of those games, 1 and 2, Mark Richt could be in serious trouble. If they go 3-0, and they're 3-0, the rest of the schedule is they could be 8-0 heading into that Florida game. So it is a very interesting. I compare it to LSU a little bit in the same ride. It's very, very interesting to me to see what happens with this team because Les Miles may not deserve his job, but I think Mark Richt kind of does right now. So I'm leaning towards the side of being conservative because I don't really see an option out there that's glaring and flashing lights in the face saying, hey, this guy needs to be hired over Mark Richt. I just don't see it.